Good day everyone, you are welcome to today's class. We'll be drafting a two-piece corset. We'll be looking at a different variation to a two-piece corset or a two-part corset. We'll be looking at it from the angle of a tubeless corset, and also we'll be looking at it from the angle of it having a shoulder and an armhole like this one that I'm wearing. This is a crop top. It's a two-piece part. I made it a few days ago. You can check my channel at Joydala Fashion Guide to see how I made this beautiful piece. It's a crop top. It's two-piece corset. So we'll also be looking at the two-piece corset from the angle of a yoke. So if this is what you want to learn, then be sure to watch this video to the end. I'll be using the board as our illustration. So let's go to the board. So for this class, we'll be making use of this board, and these are the measurements that we are working with. Shoulder to bust 10 inches, shoulder to under bust 13 inches, shoulder to waist 17 inches. The bust circumference is 34, the under bust circumference is 27, the waist circumference is 26, and the nipple to nipple, which is the bust span measurement divided by 2, is 3.5. And of course the armhole depth we are working with is 7 inches. Do well to make use of your own measurements. Now take note, if you are drafting a corset with a sleeveless, just like the one I'm putting on, when you are taking the armhole depth, you will subtract 1 from it. You will not use your exact armhole depth because it is a sleeveless. You will use 6 inches. Okay, so I have some lines drawn out here. I have the horizontal lines drawn out. Here I have the shoulder measurement. So you impute. We are going to be explaining from the angle of the body's pattern. Okay, so you impute the shoulder measurement divided by 2. Take your 1 inch shoulder slope, and then you take the armhole depth. For this one, I'm explaining the bodies with a yoke. So that is the one we are doing first, the two-piece part corset with a yoke. So you want to take your shoulder slant, and then I've marked out the armhole depth. So take note, for the one that has a yoke, do well to use your exact armhole depth. And then you mark the shoulder divided by 2 here, and then we have the chest line. So let's label our pattern. Here is the shoulder line, here is the chest line, and then here is the bust line. Here is the under bust, and here is the waist. Then for the armhole, we want to take the midpoint of the armhole depth, and with a fresh curve you measure out the armhole. But first of all, you impute your bust circumference divided by 4 on the chest line. Bust circumference divided by 4. You impute it here to know the length of the armhole, to know the armhole length, the length of the armhole curve. So after you have gotten the length of the armhole curve, you want to impute the bust span measurement divided by 2. You impute it on the bust line, chest line, all the way down to the waist. Put it on the bust and then on the waistline. And then the next thing is to connect those points together with a ruler. Use a ruler to connect all the points together, like so. So after you have done that, the next thing is to take the circumference, to mark out the circumference of the bust point. You take it around. So to do that, you take the difference between the bust and the under bust. Okay, in this case it is 3.5. So you want to, with your tape at the apex here, you want to mark that round. Remember, we are drafting a corset. That is why we are doing this. We are drafting a two-piece corset that is in two parts. So we need this as a guide when we are drawing out our cup. So that is the importance of this. So this line, you extend it to upwards to meet the curve. Like this. Now, if it is a corset with yoke, which is the one we are explaining first, corset with yoke, you need to mark out this neckline. This is the first neckline, and then we are going to be having two necklines: the neckline for the yoke and then the corset neckline. For the neckline of the yoke, if it's a small neck or a small like bust 34, you use 3.5 by 3.5. But if it's so depending on your customer, you can use 4 by 4 or 3.5 inches by 4 inches. So it depends, and then you want to mark that out. So that is our neckline for the yoke. Then the next thing you want to do is to determine the length of the yoke that you want to have. Where do you want the yoke to start from? Okay, so this is the chest line. Our chest line is on 8, so you can decide to make use of the yoke at where this curve pass, or you can decide to go up by ½ inch, or you can even decide to come down. Okay, so it depends on what you want. So if you want a yoke of 7 inches, for example, you mark it like this, 7 inches. Then you connect that line together. So this becomes the yoke part of the corset. So this is the yoke part here. So you can cut this on your tool or your lace, depending on what you are making. So let's now create the cup of the corset, the 2-part cup. Now that I have gotten the yoke like this, another thing you need to take note of is the neckline that you want the corset to have. What kind of neckline do you want the corset to have? Do you want a sweetheart neckline, or you just want a straight neckline? If it is a straight neckline, then you maintain it like this. Okay, but if it is a sweetheart neckline, then you want to come down on this neckline. You want to come down, okay, let's say 1 inch or 1.5, depending on how deep you want the yoke to be. Okay, so assuming we are coming down by 1.5, that means we are going to be altering the shape of this yoke 1.5. The next thing you want to consider is the gap between the two bows of the corset, the gap in between, this gap here. So if you want, usually we use 1 inch gap. Unfold, this is unfold, that gives us half, so we maintain half like this. So we just connect this, join this with a straight line to help you the cup. So the next thing is to create the curve of the neckline from here to here. Okay, we'll use our curve ruler for that. Just get your fresh curve like so, and then you just connect. So the next thing now is to so that means the yoke will no longer be this straight line. This is where the yoke will start from here, so this side. Okay, so I'll just clean up this part, okay, to show the yoke part. So this is the yoke. Okay, so this part is the yoke. Now to create our cup, we are going to have a 2 part. We need to take a dart. I'm going to be taking a dart under the bust. Okay, since this is a small bust, just bust 34, I'm going to be using 0.75, 0.75. But if it was a bigger bust like 30, like 40, I'll use 1 inch on both sides. Okay, so the dart you take depends on the bust. So I'm going to be using 0.75. And don't forget there are some busts that are also big, so if you like, you can use 1 inch on both sides. So it depends on you. And then I'll just repeat the same thing at the waistline, the 0.75, and then I'm going to connect that with a rule like this. So if it's a bigger bust, do well to use 1 inch. And then I'll also take at this chest line, so this is now the upper chest. I'll also take the same thing, the same dart I've taken here. I'll repeat it here. And then on this bust line, this is our bust line, bust point, the bust line, I'll go up by 1 inch and also go down by 1 inch. And then with the aid of a fresh curve, I'm going to connect this to create the cup. So using the fresh curve, I'm going to connect this to the underbust like this. I'll repeat same for the other side. Then I'll also connect this upper one. So we'll be cutting out this part, and we'll also be cutting out this part. So to complete our first cup, we want to place the French curve connecting here to the underbust, and remember that we have this as a guide. So place your French curve such that you will be able to take it well. So because we want our bust to sit properly. So this is our cup 1. So let's complete the other cup. Now you see where the mark goes through, but we'll be extending that. We'll be extending it. The reason is that the bust is fuller towards the armhole area. It is fuller. If it is a big bust, after this point you want to take 1 inch. You want to take 1 inch out like this. Assuming it's a bigger bust, like bust 40, and then you will connect from here through here so the chest line. Okay, so for this other side, I'm going to extend this line so that we can replace this dart we have taken. We need to replace it, and then we need to complete this part of the cup. So I'll just extend this line like this. So because this is a smaller bust, I will just use what I have here. I'll just divide it by 2. Okay, or you can come out with 1/2 inch for a small breast. For a bigger breast, you will use 1 inch. And then you want to connect this to here and also to the under bust to have the second cup. Make sure that the ruler is sitting properly. So we have formed the second cup. So this dart, let's replace this dart. So to replace the dart on this line, we can replace it here. Okay, then you can also mark the, this is 1.5, 1.5. So you can place it here. Then you mark where the bust, this one on the chest line, you mark the bust circumference divided by 4 was here, and then the dart, the 1.5 inches dart will not be here. So with this, you are now going to now create a new armhole curve. Okay, so for this down part, we will not be using this. We will be using here, but for the yoke, we end here at this point where the curve gets to. That is where the yoke will get to. Okay, so when we are cutting it out, we are going to cut it out from here like this, then we follow here like this, come this way, and then like this. So this is our yoke part. For a tubeless, if you don't want yoke, when you remove this part becomes a tubeless. So if you want a tubeless, on this chest line, you will come down by ½ inch. For a tubeless, you will come down by ½ inch, and then you just blend this into, you blend the curve into that. That is this curve here. You blend it like this into here. Okay, so for a tube, this is the part you'll be using. You will not use this part. So that is the second variation. The first variation is with the yoke. The second is without yoke. You just want it as a tube. So as a tube, you will just ignore this side. This is the part you will make use of. This one. So let me just write here tube or tubeless. Okay, so that is the part you're going to make use of. So we already have our two-piece corset or two-part corset. This is one, and then this is two. So of course these lines inside, we no longer need them anymore. They are just for a guide. So when you are cutting out, you are going to cut out from here through here to this side, and then the second side you cut out from here through here to this side. So let's complete our pattern. The next thing is to impute the bust circumference on this bust line. Put your bust circumference divided by 4. Your bust circumference divided by 4 on this line. And then on the underbust circumference divided by 4 here. And then you replace this dot. You replace the dot. And on the waistline, the waist circumference divided by 4. Place it here. And you also replace this dot. You have a 1.5 inches dot, and then you connect the lines. Connect here to here to here. You can use your ruler to do that. Don't forget that when you are cutting on your fabric, you are going to add in your seam allowance. Okay, you are going to add your seam allowance. So let me just assume that we have our seam allowance. So this part will be our seam allowance. Okay, so this is the center front, and then this is the side front. So I'll just quickly show you what it will look like on paper after cutting. This is how the yoke will look like. So you can now use this to cut your tulle or your lace or whatever you want to cut. This is our side front. It is on folds. So after cutting, you are going to have two. and then you are going to have one center front. Okay, this is center front, and the cup, you are going to have it in two parts after cutting out, for the left and for the right. So do well to always label your pattern. Just label how they are going to face so that you don't mess it up, because it is very easy to turn this upside down. So that is why it is good to label. So when you label, you're going to have it like this. So you have this for one side of the breast, and then you have this for the other side of the breast. Okay, so that is how your pattern will be like. Let's quickly explain the two-part corset with shoulder and armhole. How will that look like? So for a two-part corset with shoulder and armhole, you are not going to cut through here. Okay, you are not going to do that. So after you have gotten this, remember that this is the armhole. Okay, then you are going to take half of the shoulder. You are going to mark half of this shoulder. Of course, you can always determine what you want. Okay, you can mark half of the shoulder, and this becomes, that means I'll be using for this, I'll be using 1.75. so you can determine the wideness of the shoulder that you want. So if you want to use the half of the shoulder, you use it, or if you want yours to be wider, let's say you want yours to be 2 inches or 2.5, you can always extend it. So it depends on what you want. But for this illustration, I'll just use half of it, which is here. Then the next thing you want to do is that at this point where you have this dart, this one here, you will come out by, say, 1/2 inch like this, and then you connect to this place. You can connect with a straight ruler. You can also use the French curve. So if you want the strap to be straight, then you use your ruler. If you want the strap to be curvy, then you can use your French curve like this. So let me use dotted lines for the curvy parts. So you can use any of them. It is either you use the straight one or use the curvy one. So mind you, for corset, 2-piece corset with shoulder armhole, this part will not be there. This part will not be there. So this is where you are going to have. So you will have this cut together with this cup. You will cut this number 1, and then this number 2 will extend to this side. So that is the difference between this one and the other one with yoke or in tubeless form. So every other thing that you're going to do remains the same. Okay, so it is here that is going to end. Then you will not need this part again. And of course, when you are cutting it out, you just cut this out, then you cut this out. I'll just quickly show you now on paper what it looks like. What we have. So when you cut out the center front or fold, this is what it will look like. Okay, and then when you cut out the side, this is how the side will look like. Side, center. Okay, this is what it will look like. So after cutting, you are going to have these two of these. Then this one is going to be on fold. And then the cup, this is how the cup will look like. You see it? This is how the cup will look like. The cup. So, okay. This one should be inside here. So this is how the cup will look like. You see that this cup is different from the first one that I showed you. So that is the difference. Let's quickly see how the back piece will be like. So for this our back, the back piece of the two bodies of the two part corset, I already have my lines drawn out. I have the shoulder to the chest line, shoulder to bust line, shoulder to under bust, and shoulder to waist. Of course, we do not need under bust on the back pattern, so I'll just erase that, and then I'll just label what we have. We have the chest line, we have the bust line, this is our shoulder line, and then we have the waistline. So I've gone ahead to take the slope, 1 inch slope, and then taking the armhole depth. I've marked out the armhole depth and also the curve. So this is just, let's say, a basic block for the back pattern. So what you want to do next is that if it's going to be a yoke, then the same thing like we did for the front pattern, you will determine the first neckline of the yoke. Usually the neckline is higher, so you can use 1 inch or 1.5. So I marked here 1.5. Then you want to curve that out like this, and then you want to determine the depth. Okay, if you want to maintain this chest line, then you can simply just cut out this part as the yoke. Just cut out this part as the yoke. Okay, then if you want to slant it, so it depends on what you want. You can decide to come up here by, let's say, 1.5, and just slant it to this side. You may decide to do this. Explain the dart. The dart is very easy. Just the basic way that you draw out the back dart. The basic way. You mark out this bust line. You mark out your bust span measurement divided by 2. Repeat it on the waistline. You extend it to the chest. You connect these lines. And then you take 1/2 inch on both sides. Like so. On this chest line, you come down by 1 inch. You connect in a triangular form. So this is the part you to cut out. This is that part. So if you like, you can cut it out. If you like, you can just simply fold it while sewing. So the next thing you want to do now is just to impute the bust circumference divided by 4. You impute it here. And then this dart here, you will replace it. The waist circumference divided by 4. I have 6.5 there. You replace this dart, 1 inch dart, you replace it. And then you want to connect that. Just extend it to the chest line. So when you are cutting on fabric, you cannot put in your allowance. So let me just mark here. Do well to measure what you want. Whether 2 inches or 1.5, depends on you. So if you observe this pattern, this back pattern does not have a zipper line. So if you want yours to have, a zipper, then you are going to extend. This is our starting line. That means you will now come out by the zipper measurements. Let's say 1.5. So in that case, this is where your pattern will start from. So if you want your zipper, you fold your fabric into 2. It's going to start from here, not from here. So this part will become your zipper allowance. Okay, but if you don't want zip, then you are going to start your pattern from here, unfold. So let's say this, you use 10 inches as your, let's say you use 12 inches unfold as your block. But if you want zip, it means that you are going to use 13.5 inches as your block. So if you want the corset to be tubeless, then just like we did before, on this chest line, you want to come down by 1/2 inch. You come down by 1/2 inch. Okay, and then this part, you just bend it like this. Okay, that if for a tubeless, this is the part that you are going to use, this part. But with yoke, you use this part. Okay, and then for the one with shoulder, if you want the back pattern to have shoulder, the same width of shoulder that you use here, that is what you are also going to use here. I use half of it, so I can as well just make do with half of it, half of the shoulder. Or just mark half of the shoulder like this. Okay. I connect that line to meet the chest line. That means this one will not be there. And then from here, I'll mark out the armhole. I mean the neckline. It means I will no longer use this. So if I want, depending on what you want, you can, your own back neckline can stop on this chest line. What you simply do just to connect with a French. So for the back neckline, you determine what you want, whether you want a V or you want a curve. If it is a V, determine where it's going to stop. Do you want it to stop on this chest line, or you want to come down? You want it to be deep, so you determine where it's going to stop. It's going to stop on this chest line like what I have here. You simply take your ruler and just connect to the straight line like this. If you want it as a curve, you can use your free hand to draw the curve, or you use the French curve. From here you connect it. Okay, so that's how to. And then if you want a zipper, it means that the pattern needs to get to this side. To this side. This will be the zipper allowance. Okay, from here. This part become our zip allowance. Okay, but if you don't want a zipper, you want a loop, then your pattern will stop here. This part will not be included. The pattern will stop here. And then what you want to do is to determine the wideness of the exposure you want at your back before the loop. If you want 1.5, remember this is on full. 1.5 means that 3 inches wideness of your back will be exposed. If you are using 2 inches, it means 4 wideness of your back will be exposed. So depending on how wide you want your back opening to be. So if it's 2 inches, you just mark 2 at the chest line and then at the waistline, and then you connect it together. So it means that you are going to cut this out. You will cut this part out. So this is not the part you are going to use. The neckline will now come from here to this place. It will stop here. If you want a V, the V will also stop here. This part will no longer be included. This part will not be there anymore. Let me just clean it so that it will be clear. So here becomes your center front. Here will now be your side front. And of course, if you are going to make a loop, you will now determine the gap you are going to make. The gap in between the loop. You just measure it and determine how you want the loop. Okay, but you make sure that you use the same gap. I'm just using my eye measurements to do this now. You make sure the gap you have in between, they are the same. The gap, you see, 1 and 1/4. Also, if it's an eyelet you want to use, also determine the eyelet where you are going to create it. And then for the loop, you can use your fabric to form your loop, or use cutting bias. So you can use cutting bias to create your loop. What you do is to fold it into 2 like this and sew the way you are through. You form it like this. This is how to form the loop. Very easy, just cross it like this. That's how to form the loop. So if it is a tubeless, this is how your back pattern will look like. A tubeless with zipper. This is how the back pattern will look like. There will be no yoke. Okay. there will be no yoke. Then you have your zipper. If you don't want zip, this part will not be there. And then reduce here by the amount of wideness you want to have. So if you have reduced it for loop, this is how your back pattern will look like. This will now be the center back, this will now be the side back. Then for the one with yoke, you cut out the yoke the way you cut out the way you cut out the front yoke, but this time around you are going to divide it into two. Okay, this will now be one part of the yoke, and then you also have this and this, the center back and then the side back. Then for the one with shoulder, this is how the pattern will look like. The one with shoulder and armhole, this is how the pattern will look like. And then this is that dart. Okay, this will be on fold. There's no zipper allowance here, so if you want zipper allowance, you extend it on your fabric. Then if you don't want zipper allowance, that these dotted lines is how wide you want the loop. So whatever you are taking, then you now cut it off. If you are using a loop, your pattern will now reduce like this. So this is how the pattern will look like. This part is a seam allowance part. So we have come to the end of this class. I hope you now understand how to cut a two-piece corset with shoulder, without shoulder, with yoke, or as a tube form. Okay, so let me know what you think about this video. I remain Joy. You can watch my videos on my YouTube channel, Joydala Fashion Guide. So I have a lot of videos there. Okay, even the video of this, I'll be dropping the video of this corset top later in the day. Okay, for you to watch it. So if there are other ones you want to watch, you can watch them in my channel. And also you can support my channel by subscribing so that you'll be notified each time I post a new video. Until next time I come your way again, I remain Joy.